Give yourself a pat on the back. You made it to the final lesson of this trimester. So push hard. There's a lot coming at you, a little confusing, so really try to concentrate here. So here's a quick review. All things are positive. Students tell you that sine is positive and therefore cosecant. Take, which is telling you tangent, which is also telling you in an indirect way that cotangent is positive. And then all students take calc, which is telling you cosine, and therefore secant is also positive. Just a little memory tool. Reference angle, remember, if I spin my spinner right here, my reference angle, I'm just going to call it theta, would be here. If I spun it and I ended here, my reference angle would be there. If the spinner stopped here, my reference angle would be here. If my spinner stopped here, my reference angle would be here. Always sandwiched there. And remember, to create your triangle, you go back to the x, back to the x, back to the x, back to the x. Never, ever, ever back to the y when you're creating your triangles. So this problem says, write as a function of an acute, geometry, that means less than 90. So our job is to figure out a way to make this less than 90. Well, first of all, if we spin the spinner, like it says, 281 degrees, up, there's 270. I would need to go 11 more degrees. Is this my reference angle? No, it's always here. So this would be 79. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that out, and I'm going to write it as tangent of 79. But then I have to ask myself, all students take calc. See, cosine and secant are the only things positive in the fourth quadrant. We are in the fourth quadrant. So is tangent negative or positive? It is negative. Okay? Now, some students ask, is it okay to go tangent of negative 79? You're not wrong, because you are going down to get there, but this does not fit in the definition of acute. It's less than 90 but greater than 0. So that's why we don't have this, we have this. So that little piece of the puzzle is the last thing you're going to figure out. So this one, spinner 132, 90. We need to go 42.4. I'm not going to worry about being perfect, but that is 42.4. Is this my reference angle? No, this is. So this would be 47.6. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to take that out. I'm going to write this as secant of 47.6, but I'm not done with the problem. I have to ask myself, is secant positive or negative in the second quadrant? And I'm going to use this. All students, so sine and cosecant are the only things positive. Well, that means secant must be negative. Let's go to this one. We spin our spinner, negative 124. So we start here. We go down 90. That means we have to go 34 more. Probably went a little too far, but whatever. And is this my reference angle? Nope. It's got to be right here. So that'd be 56. So I'm going to change this to cosecant of 56. This is my new reference angle, but I'm in the third quadrant. What is cosecant in the third quadrant? Well, tangent and cotangent are the only things positive. Therefore, this has to be negative. Now notice we got a negative for this one, a negative for this one, and a negative for that one. So you're thinking, oh, they're all negatives. That is not true. So be careful. All right, here's a quick review. Last two problems of your Algebra 2B career, but we got to review something, 45, 45, 90. If this is x and this is x, we got to multiply that by the square root of 2. Now, the only thing I don't like is we should also teach this. If this is a 45, 45, 90, and this is x, then we would divide by the square root of 2 to get back. Keep that in mind. 30, 60, 90, remember my smallest angle is going to be 30, medium is 60, 90. If you remember, this is x, your short side. To get to the hypotenuse, you would double it. And then to get from here to your side opposite your 60, you just multiply that by the square root of 3. And looks like they're going to have us, look at it from a different angle. So maybe, I really don't know what they want from this, but here's my short side. This is 30. This is 60, 90. So this would be 2x. And now this would be x square root of 3. So they just took this and spun it, I think. That's what they wanted us to realize. Same rule, just looks different. Now it says find the exact value. Don't be thrown by that. That just means find the fraction, do what you've been doing, but this is your first clue. That means spin your spinner 300 degrees. And you want to be semi-accurate with this. So that means up. So look, I've gone 270, which means I need to go 30 more, which I'm going to guess to be right about there. And you see, you got to have, to get your 6 trig functions, you got to have a right triangle. You have to. Now, do I go back to my y or do I go to my x? If you've been listening, you always go back to your x. That is a huge clue. Now look, if this is 30, that means this is 60, and this is 90, and that's 30. Now here's something very strange in the world of trig. We don't have any sides. See, when they give us points, like, I'm just making this up, 3, 4, and we plot that, we know this is 3 and that's 4, and then we have dimensions. And then we can figure out this is 5. When they don't give us dimensions on these special right triangles, I'm just telling you, it doesn't matter what you pick for the sides as long as you follow the rules of your 30, 60, 90. So to make life super easy on us, we're just going to pick the shorty to be 1. That would mean the hypotenuse is 2. And that would mean we'd multiply that by the square root of 3 to get that. Now there's a little mistake I just made. Does anybody see it? This has to be a negative, because this is to the right, which is positive, and down, which is negative. So be careful with that. So we got to find sine of this. I'm just going to say theta, which is just 60 in this case, but it's negative 60 or whatever. 300 is a different way to think of it. Cosine tangent. In other words, we are finding all of the sine, cosine, tangent of this situation. So that's opposite over hypotenuse. There's not a whole lot of space here. Opposite would be negative square root of 3, hypotenuse 2. Cosine, ca. Adjacent, which is 1, over the hypotenuse 2. Tangent, opposite over adjacent. So that'd be just negative square root of 3. Now we got to find the reciprocal. So I'm going to start with sine. I know the reciprocal of sine is cosecant. And if I flip this, this is going to get a little messy. So I'm going to keep the negative in the top. Negative 2 over the square root of 3. I got to get that square root of 3 out of there. So I get negative 2 square root of 3 all over 3. Secant is just the reciprocal of this. So that's just going to be 2. This, I got to flip that to find cotangent. A little bit of work here. So I get negative 1 over the square root of 3. I'm going to get that square root of 3 out of there. So I get negative square root of 3 over 3. As you can see, Algebra 2 is not going to let go without giving you a little bit of a challenge. Here's your last problem. Spin your spinner negative 45, which means go right to here and stop. So I do know that this is 45. I also know this is my reference angle. I also know that I never come back to my y-axis. I always go to my x. And again, I don't have any sides. Well, that's good news. Now I can make this a 1, 1 to the right. See, this is a 45, 45, 90. So I know these two sides are the same, but this has to be negative. Remember my rule? I multiply this by the square root of 2 to get there. I multiply that by the square root of 2 to get there. So this would be the square root of 2. So this is my opposite side. This is my adjacent side. This is my hypotenuse. And here we go. Sine of theta would be opposite over hypotenuse. I'll clean that up in a minute. Cosine would be adjacent over hypotenuse. I'll clean that up in a minute. Tangent would be opposite over adjacent, which would be -1. Now the reason I'm stopping here is it's a great time to flip this to find cosecant, because that'd be just negative square root of 2. Secant is the reciprocal of cosine, so I flip that, I get square root of 2. Cotangent, if I flip -1, I just get -1. Now all I got to do is get the square roots out of there. I'm done. So this would be negative square root of 2 over 2. This would be square root of 2 over 2. And voila, you are done. Congratulations. Work hard and get ready to study hard for your final exam.